I mean, if I said I had specific things I wanted to hit today or whatever, that I would not be telling the truth. I go till 8 o'clock, then Little Calumet River people come in, and then I'll probably go to breakfast with Repay and Wyslinski. Life is good if you let it be. Hey, you're on the air. How are you? Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, life is good if you can get somebody else to tip the girls after you have lunch and pick up the tab, right, you bum?
Kind of. You got to work the system. You know what I mean?
That's you, baby. That's you, Jimmy. Just like a good Democrat working the system. I knew it.
But wait a second. Now we've talked about this. I mean, I
that's
just
right.
wonder. No, it's not.
I forgot.
No,
you
didn't forget.
Yeah,
see, what you do with that is with your labeling system, it becomes troublesome because if I don't say, hey, you know what, let's just call balls and strikes here.
Hey, wait, Jimmy,
let's
hold
all
on.
just
Johnny,
let's all be gentlemen here. Then people are driving around. No, I'm talking. You said it. And they're like driving around. Oh, well, he's like some, Democratic pinko or something. And it's like, well, I don't know that, I really want to label. And you continue to do that for all these years. And there's a number of people are like, well, why don't you just hang up on him when he does the same thing?
We don't ruin the party.
But you do the same thing over and over. And I am really, I'm people say, God, you're like the most patient guy. Well, I want to hear what you have to say. But I want you to understand that there are just a couple minor guidelines, okay? And that
all right, I'll tell you what. Next time, Jimmy, if I do that, I'm going to smash my head with a brick. I promise.
Well, then all these people are hoping that you'll do it.
Well, let's keep them listening. Maybe I'll tell you what. I'll do it live on JED. I'll come into this after. I'll tell you what I'll do. If I do that again, I'll hang up, come to the studio, and we'll do it live on JED TV.
No, you won't. That's an insurance liability. Just like the one time. Do you remember a long time ago?
Why are you gonna blame me for something you did now? I can tell.
Well, it wasn't something I did. It was something the preacher did, and he had Dave Gearman, who evidently is some sort of outdoorsman. And Gearman's like, yeah, I don't mind eating. Well, I don't know if he was eating a cricket or if he was eating, I don't forget what it was, some sort of little animal or bug. And he was just like, yeah, I'll do it. And he was going to do it live on the air. And I'm like, absolutely not. If you get sick from that, you're not doing that here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but see, that was before JED TV, so he could say he did it, but there was no proof. Like if you didn't have JED TV, you could say you deep throated a whole freaking cobra snake, right? Who's gonna know?
Well, the only thing is, I was there. I would know. But
hey, wait a minute.
You are correct. It could be all
Hey,
like
don't you remember
thing.
what? Remember when I used to go to before you got in JED TV and broadcasting more games, and when you would have a couple of us, we would go out to football games and we call in, and then like on a game that was really good.
I do remember, yeah.
Okay, so here's what. Okay, listen, kids. Here's the advice from Jimmy Dedelow, broadcaster, Mr. Honest Man Extraordinaire. You called me one time and you go, hey, that was fantastic. I loved you did it, and enthusiasm and blah, blah, blah. He says, but you don't have to you don't have to worry about saying exactly what happened. I go, wait, well, I didn't know the guy's number or his name. He goes, it doesn't matter. It's on radio. Nobody can see anything. They're never going to know if you're telling the truth or not. I go, wait a minute. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, dude, it's radio. Anything you say, they believe.
Well, if I remember correctly.
I go, so when you're calling games and you say, oh, this guy or that guy or whatever, it might not have been him?
Well, no. I think, I remember this. And part of it
your excuse was, though. You go, when me and Kuziak, we're on the way to the game. We're like a Chicago cop. We might stop at this place to pick up a pop. We might stop at that place. And by the time we get to the game, we might have lost the roster. We don't know. We just go. How are they going to prove us wrong?
I think you are right on part of that. And I think part of the part that we're talking about is that you were trying to get the exact thing at that moment of what was happening. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. If you're sitting there and they can hear the crowd and you call in and there was a big play that happened before, just you could talk like the big play's happening now. Like, oh my gosh, the guy just scored a touchdown. Way to go. You know what I mean? And because nobody knows. And
don't check the tape, kids.
we would, Tony Veneziano, remember him? I remember one time he's like producing a really big basketball game, and Kuziak and I both leave at halftime and go talk to people. I think it was a regional game at Michigan City, and he's like freaking out. He does a little halftime show, and then we don't get back for the beginning of the game. And let's say EC Central scored.
Yeah, why? Where were you?
We were at Michigan City, I remember. And
yeah,
we were
no, why didn't you get back?
Because we're out talking to people, right? So we get back, and there's like a minute and a half gone in the first the first part of the third quarter. So Kuziak and I just go in to like, hey, passing along the line, Washington shoots, that's good. Going the other way. I think they were playing like a South Bend, Washington with the ball. Callahan shoots, that's good. Right? So we just made it up, and Veneziano was like, why was that so easy for you two to just make it up? And then all of a sudden the score was 32-30, and we were right announcing the game. When it's radio,
it's a life of plagiarism between you two guys. Not an original thought in those two skulls.
Oh,
don't you remember when you guys were doing and I think it was the sectional championship game, and it might have been. I think it was Munster versus Westside at Westside, but you guys had a table literally on the corner of the court. And I was like, what the hell is that? I go, some kid's going to get killed. And you guys were all looped up, and the cords plugged into the floor. So you and Kuziak are jumping around like, cats on tin roof, and you disconnected the power and everything.
Yes, I do.
And you two were scrambling like you were having heart attacks together. It was hysterical.
Well, was that a crucial time? I think Munster at Westside, I don't know what it was a sectional game, and it was close, and it was like in the third quarter, and Kuziak and I were like, we had I don't know who the producer was, but somebody had to put it together.
Oh, you guys were on the floor, laying on the floor, crying, screaming, banging the table.
I appreciate you exaggerating, but not only that, at the same time, my phone is just blowing up, and all these people are miffed because they're listening to the game in their car, or they're sitting in their living room or whatever.
Yeah, I was sitting in the stands watching you guys. It was funny as hell, man.
It was kind of funny. But you see, those are stories.
The reason I called.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking to myself, if Walt got rear-ended 6 times in accidents, you think he was wearing a cardigan every time? Like guaranteed, right?
A hunter green cardigan. Buttoned all the way up. Buttoned all the way up. Not hanging off of them. Buttoned all the way up with either a
white button-down shirt.
Exactly.
Cuff links, probably.
And he was driving either at the speed limit on Calumet Avenue or below it, and that's how he got rear-ended 6 times. I know. Hey,
here's how you get out of the tickets on Route 30 or Route 65. All you got to do is put a couple bikes on the bike rack on the back, and then you tie like your, what do you call it, like a Gatorade towel that just happens to hang right over the license plate. You go through there about 95 down to Indy, and you're good to go. I didn't say that, though. But, hey, Jimmy, I got a question for you. What do you think of this guy in New York City? The first globalist, jihadist, Muslim, Democratic commie running for mayor of New York City. Can you see Sharia law going down in New York City? I'm going to vote for this guy like 5 times. Can't wait to see that disaster. Boy, these guys, you think they can get any dumber on the Democratic side, Jimmy? Of which I know you've never, ever been a part of in your life.
So,
because you're independent.
There's 2 things to take of that. In that, it could be the best thing that ever happened for Republicans is to elect a 33-year-old Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, as the
mayor.
Who
wants to tax white people at a higher rate than anybody else.
Well, there's one part for Republicans that could be a very good thing. Okay? It's just like
for Democrats, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, the other part of that is that could be setting a roadmap for attracting young people and the transfer of power basically from old people to younger people, and that this may take hold and sweep across the country. Now, I don't know what the possibility is there, but it could be a good thing.
When you say sweep across the country, you mean in the moronically democratically controlled places, because you wouldn't find a conservative on planet Earth voting for this guy to pick the hair out of his navel.
Well, I think
you're
dividing. Hold on a
communist.
second. You're dividing the world into like conservative and liberal, and that is certainly a thing that is held for many years. What I see happening more, and that's from seeing all these young people around here, is that I'm not altogether sure it's not a kind of a generational thing. In other words, there's a lot of young people that are coming in all the way from like Micah Beckwith here the other day, the lieutenant governor, all the way to Zoran Mamdani, all the way to Adriana Alvarez is like, screw you, I'm 20 years old, I'm the COO here, too bad if you don't like it. And it's like all this youth movement is like, we're going to take over America because you guys have kind of screwed it up. And
I hate to give you the bad news, but the lieutenant governor is on my side. I talked to him twice. Once on the air and once
I understand
off.
that. And I understand that you want to divide the world into conservative and liberal and Republican and Democrat.
I just divided between conservative and stupid.
Okay, well, I'm saying that I think it's evolving. I think that there were a number of people that came out and said, well, I'm a conservative young person in New York City, but I just can't stand the traditional establishment, and so I voted for Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, they had that thing like having a work ethic, having to work to earn money, to get out of bed before like 10:30 or 11 to go to a job.
I think you're proving my point.
You deserve free food. You get free food. Come on.
I think you're proving my point is that, like, even Micah
every day, Jimmy,
listen,
I only prove mine.
So Micah Beckwith is in here the other day, right? And he's on the air with with Bob Starkey, and he comes out after, and he had seen me, and he's like, I want to meet that guy, and so I come out of my office on the other side. And we start talking about golf, and then we joking around about the Indy
You didn't ask him if he wanted a gummy, did you?
No, I didn't, but I would have.
Thank God.
But anyways,
God.
I'm like, and then he starts talking off the air, and I won't go into it because, I didn't say I was interviewing or whatever, but he was pretty eloquent about wanting to change the nature of how we think about things. And I know that
that's sort of like Donald Trump, right?
No, but you got to look at what he did the next day. He comes out, or he did here. That's why it was like statewide news. He did it here. He came out and he said, I don't agree with Governor Braun. We should not put tolls on the Borman, I-65, I-69. No, that's a bad idea. And I'm like, do you know how much change that is for a lieutenant governor to go against his governor openly here in the region? And then I was talking to the guy openly and kind of socially, and I don't know, maybe one day I'll play golf with him, it sounds like.
Hey, is this
but now
really
listen, what
Braun's
he was
idea,
doing is structurally, he saying, you know what, I don't really care. I'm not paying homage to the establishment. I'm just going to do it my way, and there's a lot of people who think like me. Now, you're classifying them as conservatives, but, it is an age and a youth movement that, to me, is starting to emerge. I think he's in early 40s. So
well, I hate to tell you, Jimmy, but the youth movement is coming very clearly to the conservative Republican side. And it's also, where else it's showing up at, Jimmy? In church. Youngsters coming back to church in droves. I love it.
Well, I think that, and I think that you're hitting about you don't want to see the other side, that it isn't a always just a conservative / liberal thing.
You think liberals are going to church these days, Jimmy? Are you kidding me?
No.
They're out there. They're out there at the No Kings rally.
You know what? You want it to be. You
Free
want to tell the
eat.
story the way that you see it. And what I'm saying is that really kind of that, dividing the world into conservative and liberal, and let's fight each other, and it's so much easier to understand that way. I think that we're entering a period here in 2025 where it's not going to be that easy. You're going to have people that are younger that are just, it doesn't, the liberal conservative thing doesn't matter as much as I'm tired of the way that these old people screwed this world up. That's what I see.
When you interviewed Braun,
I gotta go.
You got
one more, and then I am going to deal with the death of a friend, and I've been putting it off, and I'm going to have to talk about it here in a little bit. I don't even know how to handle it. But anyways, go ahead. How are you? Hey, you're on the air. All right, I lost you. I'm sorry. I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to move. Speaking of young people who aren't waiting their turn, have absolutely no care about establishment rules, Adriana Alvarez is here. And if you want a podcast, I think she met with somebody yesterday and has one coming up. It is, I basically handed it over to her and AJ Preboy, and they're just like, all right, this is how we're going to do it. Get out of our way. And that's what's happening. Zorman Brani. I'm just going to do it this way. You don't like it, too bad. Micah Beckwith. Yeah, this is how it is. I don't care. Get out of the way. You guys screwed up, so this is how it's going to be. I mean, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? You can make your own judgment on the voice and face of the region.